Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me.
You know, mothers just teach us so much. You know, let me give you a few of these here. They teach us about foresight. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. Mothers teach us about logic. You know, if you fall out of that tree and break your neck, don't come crying to me, right? They teach us about maturity. Eat your vegetables or you'll never grow up. And the one that I really like, mothers teach us about contradictions when they say, shut your mouth and eat your dinner. And mothers through the years have taught us about religion. You better pray that comes out of the carpet. Now here's just a few things a mother does not want to hear. Mom, your lipstick works better than crayons. Does red Kool-Aid leave a stain? What do y'all think? The principal called and... But Dad says that word all the time. One more. What's it cost to fix a window? You know, mothers are always on the front lines of family. And really, they are the backbone of the home. You know, a mother can touch an entire generation by just loving her child well. In Deuteronomy 5:16, we know a command from God, honor your mother. And I realize each of us today could get up here and share your experience about your mother. But I get that privilege as a preacher. So I hope that my reflections today will bring back sweet reflections of your mother. Now, I got to tell you, I have not, and Cheryl and I were talking about this before, I've not preached a Mother's Day sermon since my mother passed away in 2013. I just didn't know if I could do it. So we'll see how that goes today. But I can remember when I called my mother on Mother's Day 2011. And I told her I was going to preach a sermon on what she taught me. And her first response was this: oh no, you're going to tell them I taught you how to shop. Now, I'll admit it, I know there are a few men. I mean, how many men in here love to shop? Yeah, but I do, because my mom grew up, you know, taking me to garage sales, to flea markets. She'd even take us to people's front yards that looked like they were having a garage sale. And I got to tell you, after my dad passed away, it's taken us 6 months to clean out my mom and dad's house. So obviously, she loved to shop. But I want to just tell us a few things today about what my mother taught me. And I know they could be endless, but think of your mothers as we go through some of these, because they could relate. You know, my mom came from a broken home, and yet with God's help, she still had a whole life. My mother's dad left her and her mother when she was very young, and so my mom was raised by a single mother, which was kind of unheard of. You think about that back in the 30s and 40s. You know, she was born in a half dugout. She lived a lot of her life in an abandoned boxcar. And, you know, pop psychology day would tell us, blame our childhood for not being able to live a whole life as an adult. Now, I realize there are certain severe cases where that could be true. But God's Word teaches us that life is about choices. And we have the choice to hand God our broken lives, and He can and will put those things back together. My mom did that. You know, Psalm 147:3, the psalmist says, God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Second thing my mom taught me, you can have severe health issues throughout your entire life and still praise God. Psalm 73, verse 26 in the Living Bible translation, it says this: my health fails, my spirit droops, yet God remains. He is my strength. Yeah, one thing I remember when I was 10 years old, I had to live with the preacher and his family for probably about 6 weeks because my mother had 75% of her stomach removed back in the 70s, and it was a surgery that she probably wasn't supposed to survive, yet she did. And, she beat breast cancer. She had 16 surgeries in her lifetime. And my mother taught me that life is not to be endured, but to recognize it as a gift. It comes down to this. We can wear our hurt or we can wear our hope. And she wore her hope. Now, unfortunately, I did get my mom's health genes. Of course, y'all know that. Or maybe I should say lack of health genes would be better. But my mom also taught me what it meant to be a person of hospitality. Romans 12:13 says, practice hospitality. Some versions say given to hospitality. And that verse, I would say, probably described my mother better than any other. Because we know hospitality literally means entertaining strangers and opening up our homes. And it's the idea of almost like you'd have a sign in front of your house that says always open. But that was my mother. I mean, growing up, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, there were very few Sunday meals that we ate alone. Almost every Sunday, my mother would invite someone to come eat. And, if anyone came and visited church, it didn't matter if they were, well-dressed or in rags, they would be sitting at our table on Sunday. One other example, when I think of my mom giving the hospitality, when we were in Sunset, I called my mother and asked if we could bring our class for the weekend. And her response was, sure, how many? And I said, around 30 to 35. And all she said was, come on. And she housed all of us, she cooked for us, she entertained for us. And I got to tell you, I really didn't learn to appreciate my mother's hospitality until several years ago when Kinsey was in college at South Plains. And she called us, wanted to know if we wanted to meet in Littlefield for pizza buffet. And we said, well, sure. And she said, I might bring a few friends. And we said, that, that's fine. 15 kids showed up. But, those kids heard the most important phrase that you can hear while you're in college, right? Free pizza. But I learned that true hospitality costs, and it costed a lot. But, I asked my mother why she was always so giving, and her response was this: I know what it's like to have nothing. My mom taught me there's no place like home. To know that no matter how much we disappoint them, no matter when we moved to Colorado, you thought we'd move to other ends of the earth. No matter how much money we've cost them, no matter how many times we've broken their hearts, isn't it great to know that you can still walk through that door and you're going to get a hug and you're going to know everything's all right because of Mother. I was reading the other day that ulcer is kids spelled backwards, or at least it should be. And I gave my mom plenty of reasons to have ulcers. Mark Twain said this. Here's advice for you parents of young kids. When a kid turns 13, stick him in a barrel, nail the lid on top, and feed him through the knot hole. When he turns 16, plug up the knot hole. Psalm 127:3, children we know are a gift from God. They are His reward. And my mother always made me feel like I was truly a gift from God. My mom also taught what servanthood was, all about. anytime I'd call her, it seemed like they were on their way to Abilene to take someone to the doctor or to Brownwood or wherever. It did not matter. She was there for people. She was a servant her entire life. It's almost like I think my mom had the attitude of, how can I help you? My mother also taught me what it meant to work hard and not be lazy. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord. And I can't help but this time of year, especially with summer coming on, and Drew, you're going to be planting all these flowers here in a little while. My mom loved flowers and rose bushes and all that. And this time of year, she would always get up at 5 every morning to go out and water everything before it got too hot. Then in her words, she would say, then I've got to come in and go to work. But I'm just so thankful I was given a godly example of what God commanded us to do, work and work hard. My mother also taught me the importance of worshiping God with reverence. I grew up never wondering what I would be doing on Sundays or Wednesday nights. And that's because worshiping God was so ingrained in me. It was just a habit. And we were talking just the other day about mothers and when we were young, you remember your mother thumping your head when you would talk in church? Or, if your eyes were open while the prayer was going on, it took me till I was about 50 to figure out, how did she know? But a mother's ultimate purpose is to instill in her children a love of God. And my mother did that. Let me give you an example. I just remember growing up, Wonderful World of Disney, I believe, isn't that what it's called? Came on every Sunday night at 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., I always knew where I would be. Not watching Wonderful World of Disney, but at church. And then I can remember also, I was so excited I was going to join the Boy Scouts, and they were meeting on Wednesday night. And here's the thing, most of my friends, at school will be talking about the latest Disney show or their Boy Scout activity, but I was out of that loop. But my mother taught me the most important loop to be in. And that was God's loop, not the loop of this world. My mom taught me what it means to give. I got to admit, I grew up thinking everyone received 20 presents at Christmas. And then Santa Claus came. Anytime we went to visit, we always left with more than we came. She not only gave of her money, she gave of her time. My mom, I think, taught me what's really important in life. Proverbs 14, verse 1 says this, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with their own hands. That first phrase, who's responsible for the quality of the life in the home? He says it's the mother. Let's admit, guys, come on. She sets the mood, right? And maintains the atmosphere of the home. That's why we get the saying, if mama ain't happy, right? The woman is the thermostat in the home. And then that last phrase of Proverbs 14, a way to ruin a home is being passive by simply just failing to work. Having the attitude, just never getting around to it. But I cannot thank God enough for being blessed by a mother who understood that a relationship with Lord was what life was really all about. What time is it? Oh, I've got 5 minutes left. What should I do? A mother's, and I've already said this once, but it's so true, a mother's ultimate purpose is to instill in her children a love for God. And I was blessed to not only have a mother tell me about God's love, but she also showed me. And I'll be first admit, I've got a long ways to go in learning and applying the lessons that my mother taught me, but I want each of you today to reflect and think about the lessons that your mother taught you. And I want to close with two things here, since we had time. One of them is entitled, What's a Grandmother? Because we don't want to leave grandmothers out, right? And then, What's a Mother? Now, let me tell you, What is a Grandmother was written by a third grader. So keep that in mind, okay? I did not write this. A third grader wrote it. A grandmother is a lady who has no children of her own. She likes other people's little girls and boys. A grandfather is just a man grandmother. I like that. Try to explain that one, huh? He goes for walks with boys and they talk about sports and stuff like that. Grandmothers don't have to do anything except be there. They're old, so they shouldn't play hard or run. Now remember, I did not write this. Usually grandmothers are fat, but not too fat to tie your shoes. They wear glasses and funny underwear. And they can take their teeth and gums out. That's talent. Everybody should try to have a grandmother, especially if you don't have TV. Because, and I like this last phrase, they're the only grown-ups who have time for us. All right, this one's a little more serious, and then we'll be done. What's a mother? A mother's a mixture of patience, kindness, understanding, discipline, purity, and love. A mother can be at one and the same time both love counselor to a heartbroken daughter and head baseball coach to her son. A mother is the only creature on earth who can cry when she's happy, laugh when she's heartbroken, and work when she feels ill. Only a mother can appear so weak and helpless and yet be the same one who puts the fruit jar cover on so tightly, even Dad can't get it off. A mother has an angelic voice as she sings lullabies to her baby, yet this same voice can dwarf the sound of an amplifier when she calls her boys in for dinner. A mother has the fascinating ability to be almost everywhere at once, and she alone can somehow squeeze an enormous amount of living into an average day. Last thought, and this is so true. There's no greater thrill in life than to point to that wonderful woman and be able to say to the rest of the world, that's my mother. Happy Mother's Day.
Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save.